Germany. But Josh joins us now, neighbor to watch Crystal Ball College football. I'm still kind of dealing emotionally with that. No dog in the hunt, but the way that Houston West Virginia game ended was bananas.
Yeah, I am. I had a dog in the hunt. My dog did not hunt. That is a problem with that. Yeah. So I had West Virginia -2.5. Felt pretty good about it there. Honestly, like numbers wise, like I was on the right side of that game, so I actually feel pretty good about it. I mean, I don't know how Houston Cougars fans feel better about Dana Holgorsen after that game. I will say this: Donovan Smith has been so up and down. We even saw it in the game. He was ripping that ball all over the place, and I know that West Virginia secondary has taken some big hits in terms of personnel and who's available and whatnot. But I was really impressed, and I was impressed at times by both teams. Dana at the end of the game playing not to lose. Like really, your quarterback has not missed I don't think he missed a throw the entire second half. And they decide to run the ball and punt it back. It's like, your defense sucks. You know your defense sucks. They've been moving the ball all day on you. Really, the only stop you got was one punt, and then you got the interception in the end zone, which was really a touchdown. And so I don't get that. But Donovan Smith, the man check tipping it back up, and then Johnson, coming through with the catch. And look, like I know he and his dad's pretty active on social media. Like we're pretty frustrated with what happened in Oklahoma State. A lot of people were, but he has not played particularly awesome so far at Houston. And he had a massive game, obviously the catch right there too, but he had another touchdown as well. So Houston needed this game. Dana Holgorsen needed this game. And now they feel a little bit better about life as they head towards the Texas game next week.
Yeah, Donovan Smith, 21 of 27, 253, and 4 touchdowns. And, of course, that last one was spectacular. Yeah, I think, though, Josh, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, Garrett and I did, that there's got to be at least 4, especially the new 4, with the new conference. I know that, Houston fans might be up and down on Dana Holgorsen, but I do think you need to, there needs to be some research, some actual numbers, and find out where you're deficient compared to the new league and even the newer new league after that before you get rash and decide that Dana Holgorsen's not the guy anymore.
Yeah, so I'm with that a bit, but also at the same time too, Dana Holgorsen's teams have not changed. The Rice game is just a complete. I mean, I forget who it was after the game saying we took them, we did not take them seriously. And that cannot happen. And you even see it the first half against Texas Tech, they're banging with them, they're scoring with them. Second half, things go completely quiet for you. That can't be the way things go for Houston football. And especially because think about the new 4 schools, UCF is the best job out of the 4 just because of the location, but Houston is probably number 2 in terms of location. I know Cincinnati's a good spot, but think about Houston is the 4th largest American city, right? I think the media market, whatever city, but the number of players on SEC rosters from places like Missouri City, right? Yeah. And even in Houston, and Louisiana is right next door. There's a lot of, Astros fans in Louisiana, the LSU fans and all, kind of, it's just a big mixture of an area. That's a really good job for the same reasons that Houston is, or UCF is a good job. So, I'm not saying Houston, they have to, that they have to be patient. And they have a little reason, I think, to push a little bit. But just when it comes to Dana, I feel like he's a specific case because, I kind of feel like Dana is not, he's an air raid coach. And, air raid coaches don't really evolve. I actually think Doug Belk is not too bad. The personnel they have, they try to beef it up. And at times the defense does look good. And I know they made a change. I forgot the kid's name. They made a change last night in defensive line. They did get some pressure at some times. But that's a work in progress. But yeah, man, it's just Dana's kind of Dana at this point, and I don't really know if he's bringing what Houston needs to be successful in the Big 12, even though he's got Big 12 experience.
Yeah, I think that you're. We'll see. Again, we'll see. I think that you do have to. I think everybody needs to cool out before they start changing coaches. But Houston's going to have advantages that other schools don't because they're in Houston, and they're going to get, we talked about earlier, they're going to get the homesick kids out of the portal. They want to come back to Houston. And so they've got that advantage, but they need to strike while the iron's hot. Elsewhere in the Big 12, this is, this is a big bye week. There's several teams on bye, but for BYU and TCU and Kansas State and Texas Tech in particular, these are two games that could be season turners for everybody involved in different regards. Let's start with BYU and TCU. The Horned Frogs feel to me that they're warding off a free fall right now, and BYU could come in and take advantage of that.
Yes. So people, and I look at the spread, and I get it. So I understand why it's 6. TCU's team is much more talented than BYU's. BYU number, if you go and look at the way they were playing in some of these games, they did not outplay Arkansas. They did not outplay Cincinnati for a large stretch of that game. They did not outplay Kansas. And the other games they had, Southern Utah, right? And then Stephen F. Austin, Sam Houston, 14-0. They did not play well in that game. But I will say this, they are very opportunistic. And that's bad news for TCU because that's the kind of team that can beat them. West Virginia did the very same thing to them when they played them a couple weeks ago. I will say this, I'm wondering what happens when a team like this spreads out BYU.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to go particularly well. But, the quarterback thing's a huge problem for TCU right now. I will say, the one thing about TCU, and this is not being talked about because they're not playing well, Imani Bailey is having a monster season so far.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
They might need to maybe should do the Kendra Miller experience and maybe run that thing 30 times tomorrow. I think that might be the thing you need.
I've seen Kendall Briles do it before. Nobody talks about it.
Forget he has running back.
Yeah, no. Run the game they beat UCLA in the Holiday Bowl, they threw the ball 12 times. They just ran. He was the one who came up with the plan when they didn't have quarterbacks and won the game in Orlando, the Camping World Bowl or whatever it was that year. I don't know. That one changes sponsors quite a bit, but he's the one who did that. So, I do think that the pressure to go fast in that offense and the way that they practice, maybe sometimes you just can't do that with the guys that you have. I think particularly with their offensive line, talking to Steven Simcox about it on the show on Triple Option the other day on my earlier show, Josh, was it was maybe they just don't have the linemen to do that right now, to go as fast as KB wants to go.
Yeah, it's interesting living in Arkansas now. The Kendall Briles debate is a really weird one because Arkansas, they have Dan Enos now, and their offense really it kind of needs some Kendall Briles in it. But sometimes the Kendall Briles offense needs a little bit more Dan Enos in it, and in a good way. Sometimes you do need to slow things down. I think Texas Tech, you and I talked about them last week. They did a great job of that last week against Baylor, right? There was still a lot of pace in that, but their commitment to running the football was definitely there. I think TCU can really slow down BYU. I actually don't know if that's going to be. They have to be locked in if they're going to do that. But focused defenses can kind of hold back the BYU offense for stretches of time. The thing you can't do is just you need to be better on special teams than them. You cannot give them short fields. They cash in short fields. It feels really often. They don't get to the quarterback a ton, I believe. So the one thing is you might have a good chance of having Josh. I believe Josh Hoover's playing. Letting him have some time. Mm-hmm. But as good as BYU is, and I hate to be like this, but all my attention's on TCU because they were in the national championship game last year. And the attention should be on TCU. And Sonny Dykes, I know it's a transition year, but there's top of that roster, maybe being, a little bit kind of the same talent level as last year's. Problem is quarterback wise, they're not there. Offensive coordinator wise, there's a little bit of a gap there as well too. And defensively, they're not making all the adjustments that you like them to see. And they're getting beat in the margins. Ironically, after a year, they beat everybody in the margins.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Texas Tech and Kansas State. Kansas State needs to wash off that loss to Oklahoma State, and Tech needs to, continue on their winning streak. And look, they beat Houston, obviously, who's up and down. They beat Baylor, who's down. And now they've got Kansas State, who needs this. And Baron Morton looked very comfortable last week. Baylor didn't do much to get in his way. Big 12, Taj ran all over the place.
Taj Brooks, yeah.
Yeah, Taj Brooks ran all over the place. So that might be different than what he's going to see against Kansas State this week, but Tech's in a position here to maybe gather back some of their hype.
Yes. This game is like impossible to handicap just because you don't want to bet against Chris Klieman and company because you know what they're capable of. But then you watch them last week off a bye week, it was one-way traffic in terms of coaching. Like that first, they got punched in the mouth from the word go. That first drive, that script was fantastic from Casey Dunn and Mike Gundy. And K-State, they were put in a pretty significant hole pretty early on. I think Texas Tech is turning the corner. I've seen it in the last 6 quarters for them, right? The last half of the Houston game and the entire 4 quarters against Baylor. But what does that actually mean? K-State's missing some corners, and obviously too, they are missing Daniel Green in the middle. They're not running the ball as effectively as they normally have. The receivers are not as open as they normally are. Will Howard is not making great decisions, but he's got to force balls in tight windows. He's not making good decisions, but it's not like there's a lot of great decisions there to make. It feels like Ben Sennett's honestly the guy who's open the most, which is a problem. It's a big problem for them. So, I think about this spot here. Like, I think everything points to Tech winning. Here's the problem, though, Paul, is that this happened last year as a big night game at home, right, in conference, and they had a kind of corner turning opportunity, and they got absolutely crushed by Baylor. And it was Barrett Morton playing quarterback, and he's dinged. I'm not sure how good the shoulder is, so I really don't know. I think like you try running the football against K-State because I actually think there's a chance that they're pretty weak there. Some teams have had some success at that point, and that's not what we thought was going to happen. So Ollie Gordon had a big week last week, and maybe you try to do what Gundy and company did, and have your guy make a few throws. But I'm wondering how much pace we're going to see because Oklahoma State did have some success with it at times, but also too there was moments where it was like y'all need to put this game away, and they let K-State hang around. So if it's a close game, I'm going to trust K-State more because in close games this year, I know K-State hasn't been excellent, but like Texas Tech has not been as good as they were last year. So it's really hard to figure out which way this game's going to go. I mean, I guess I'm going to take the home team in Texas Tech, but yeah, this is basically a Big 12 title eliminator, and it's 2 teams that thought they would be in better spots than they were in this game, and really they're just fighting to stay alive at this point in the Big 12 hunt.
Yeah. Kansas and Oklahoma State is very interesting to me in that Kansas won't have Jalen Daniels, so that's a problem. I mean, but they managed a way through last week very well against a team that can't stop the run. Oklahoma State might have found themselves a little bit, and they're playing in Stillwater, which is like the twilight zone for everybody else. So maybe Oklahoma State, when they win games this year, it is not going to look, I'll just say it, fun. Like they're compared to how they used to win games, but they might have found a way to make it muddy and keep people close and steal some.
Yeah, so I forgot what the number is exactly, but Mike Gundy is like ridiculous as a home underdog. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has been, I saw the number last, I think Cody Nagel tweeted that. I forgot what it was exactly though. So that gave me pause because like, I think pretty confidently Kansas, this is weird to think, like Kansas, I'm not sure the entire roster is better, but like, I think Kansas has the better team. I really think Kansas has a better team. Kansas football had they got beat pretty badly at the end of the Texas game. Like it was close, then it wasn't close. And they responded by beating the brakes off UCF. Like that is not something that Kansas teams normally do. Last year's Kansas team fell apart after a loss. And that's the one thing about them is they are a hammer with the rushing attack. I mean, Hishaw and Neal are in a groove right now. The offensive line is blocking so well. Kotelnicki has done a great job dialing it up. Kansas threw for 98 yards last week and scored 50 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that is ridiculous. So I'm wondering if Mike Gundy and Brian Nardo can get into a spot where they do have to make Jason Bean beat them because I can't think of a game where Jason Bean's gotten close to beating some teams because they've had shootout games like last year, close against Oklahoma a little bit, close against Baylor at times, close against TCU when he came in relief, but never like actually got the job done. So I'm wondering if that Oklahoma State defense can put Kansas in that spot. That's kind of my big question for this game.
All right. We'll do 2 national games before we go. Miami and North Carolina. Miami coming off the biggest blunder you can possibly make as a coach. I think they'll be very focused on the coaching staff. The players will be the question. Is North Carolina too good, and did Miami show themselves a little bit?
Just weird ACC night games. It's just like yikes. Yuck. It's one of those games where, if anybody's better out there, I just encourage you to stay away from this game. Look, like I think this Miami team is very, very good. Tyler Van Dyke has really turned a corner compared to what he was doing last year. Just the mismanagement of last week's game kind of has to make you rethink everything and how much those players trust their coaching staff to be put in places to succeed right now. It can't be a whole lot. And so that does worry me. That does concern me right now as far as Miami is concerned. I'm interested to see how Tez Walker looks, right? I think this is, the first, see him full speed, see if they can get him back fully incorporated in the offense. And I think Drake May has big time Sam Howell vibes from that final year Sam Howell played there when they took away all of the weapons that he had, like when the entire Michael Carter, De'Ami Brown group kind of got phased out and it was all him. It feels like it's a little bit better than that, but still like not excellent. So this game is really interesting because I think maybe overall Miami's got better. I actually pretty confident Miami overall has better personnel. I trust the coach on the other side of the ball better. Conservative old Mac Brown. It looks like like Brandon Staley compared to Mario Cristobal.
Yeah.
So that concerns me. So I would take Carolina. I would take Carolina because they're at home, and I think there's a lot of questions being asked of Mario Cristobal right now, and I'm sure he's doubting himself.
Yeah, that's one it's going to be tough to watch off. All right, the big one, Oregon, Washington from Seattle. This is one of the hardest games I've ever had to pick in my life. I
feel good about Oregon, and just like they might lose, but I'm just kind of not too worried about it. I think Oregon all around is a better team. I think up front they're actually pretty good, or at least better. I think that the big thing is, like, can they get pressure on Washington, right? If you let Michael Penix sit back and deal, he's going to deal, right? They've got, multiple NFL wide receivers in the team, and that's just the way it's going to be. Tough environment, obviously. But I think that high-powered Oregon offense has a good chance to put up just as many points. I've loved the way that Bo Nix has looked this year. He's very, very confident. Wonder if the environment will get to him at all, but he seems like he's just matured. He's gotten older. He's gotten better. And so I think it's really compelling from the standpoint of, like, one of these guys will emerge as a Heisman favorite, right? The kind of feels like it's how it's going to go for this game. And I think we're expecting a shootout, right? Maybe things are slow and in the beginning, and guys are tight maybe in the beginning because the atmosphere and everything. But I think eventually everybody gets loose. They start putting up points, and I think I trust Oregon to get a few more stops.
All right, Josh, is there a game we haven't talked about that maybe you've got on your radar?
Well, because all these schools this week are like pretty significant favorites. So I think that's big. I'd like to shout out tonight in the AAC, Memphis against Memphis is playing Tulane. That's a pretty big game in the American Athletic Conference. Mm-hmm. Also this weekend, I am looking to see the Notre Dame USC game, just because Notre Dame just keeps playing big game after big game after big game. And I'm not sure they thought it would end up being like this, but Duke obviously got them in a big spot. Louisville got them in a big spot. Both those were at home. I felt like that entire last drive against Ohio State was a game in itself that took out just it's like an extra game almost they had to play, just emotionally. And so you're thinking, okay, back at home now, is that good? Is that bad? What's the state of the team? Are they banged up? Because Louisville took it to them a little bit last week there they got to Sam Hartman. But the thing is, it's crazy to think this. USC's defense is probably nowhere near as good as Louisville's defense is, which is a weird statement to say, but that just kind of goes to the Alex Grinch territory. So, I'm wondering how they approach this game. They try to slow things down. They try to limit possessions. They want to try to score with USC because, hey, if Fafita can do it, and Arizona can do it, why the hell can we not do it? So I'm interested to see Marcus Freeman's coaching approach, because I'll tell you what, man. There is no coach in the country who is more maligned on a week-to-week basis, I feel like, for the way they approach games than Marcus Freeman. I know the 10 men thing was pretty bad, but like, it feels like each week, just like the Duke game, people are like, why are you playing for a long field goal in this game? That does not make a ton of sense in the moment when they were doing it. Luckily, they got out of that thing alive. I think some of the folks were upset about the way they protected last week, and then this week too. You're wondering, all right, how's the approach? So I think it's because they're playing so many big games, but nobody week to week gets more scrutiny in terms of coaching because those big games, because Notre Dame, and because of who he's following, than Marcus Freeman. So he has to deal with that in his second year of being head coach, which I don't envy him at all.
I think Marcus Freeman is in the category right now, and I think he'll be out of it soon enough, where he is a great coach Sunday to Friday. And then on Saturdays, he's not there yet.
I think it gets there. I mean, it's
coming.
We're going there right now too. Like watching Sam Pittman and here in Arkansas, it's just some guys, when they just don't have it on game day when they go up against better coaches, but like eventually they do learn, you know what I mean? Or sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you kind of like his chances to figure it out.
Marcus Freeman's young coach.
Yeah, he's really young. It's credit. Yeah, he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time. All right, Josh, have a great weekend, man. Always enjoy it. We'll talk to you next week.
You too, Paul. Anytime.
All right. There you go. Josh Neighbors.